Welcome in. Come on in. Good to see you. Welcome to Storytime with Brian. If you're in marketing, leadership, or marketing or leadership, this should be a fun 15 minutes of your day where I tell you a quick story from my life and give you a quick takeaway of something you can use to do better in your role as a marketer, as a human, or in leadership. So let's talk about food for a minute. New Year's resolutions. One of mine was to end the year feeling really good about my exercise and working out habits. And one of the keys to that is exercise and eating. At the end of the day, I don't really care about either one of those things. Eating well is nice, I guess, if it produces some result. Same thing with exercising. Like, it's nice if it's some kind of means to an end, but those two things by themselves, like, eh. But the nice thing is both of those things do drive how I feel about myself. So with food specifically, I've been eating one meal a day during the weekdays for about 6 months now. So I'll go from, I don't know, the time I go to bed, 9 o'clock, through the next day about 5 o'clock. And for the first 3 or 4 months, I was focusing literally on one meal. So I would eat within a 1 hour eating window and eat whatever I wanted to in that 1 hour eating window. I did that for 6 months. I had great fat loss results from that. Felt better, digestive system, just happier. And honestly, it's one of the few things that was just less work and produced good result. Like, eating more often is harder than eating less often. Or eating less often is easier than eating more often because you just think about food less. Obviously, there's some habitual things and whatnot you have to work through on that. But here's an interesting thing. Over the last few months, my fat loss gains have slowed. So the amount of fat I've been losing has slowed down. And what I noticed is my eating window has slowly expanded. So I've consistently waited till 5 to eat, but it went from eating from 5 to 6 p.m. to eating to 5 to 7 p.m. or eating from 5 to 6 and then having a snack in the 8 p.m. hour. But it basically expanded my eating window from 1 hour to 4 hours. And at the end of the day, I was just kind of still hungry. I still wanted food. So I tried I had my goal of end the year feeling good. I knew one key piece of that is food. I knew food and exercise. So this isn't about exercise at all, but a trick that I used this week that I think has unlocked something, and I'll share the results of this here in a minute. So the trick is this. Pile up at 5 p.m. I literally walk downstairs. I'm obviously a little hungry, and the longer I've done the eating one meal a day, I'm not starving by 5 p.m., even though it's a 20 to 23 hour fast. But I walk down at 5 p.m., triage the kids, triage the house, make sure everything is good there. When it comes time to eat, I literally will spend about 20 minutes piling up every piece of food that I can conceive of wanting into a giant pile. And I'll show you a picture of this here in a minute. Yesterday I had steak, salmon, a hamburger patty, some pickles, some green beans, some plantain chips and guac, and a couple pieces of fruit, just literally giant pile of food. And sit down and eat till I'm absolutely stuffed. Maybe 10 out of 10 is I can barely walk. This is 7.5, 8 out of 10. And results, down 3 pounds in 2 days. Pretty wild. So I'm eating, and I'm not macro tracking right now, so I can't say this definitively, but I'm eating about the same amount of stuff. I'm not eating substantially less right now than I was when I was eating over a 4 hour window than a 1 hour window. But something about the physiological part of my body likes a confined space, not snacking after hours, and I'm probably the distance between the last bite I eat and insulin spike and the time I go to bed. There's probably pieces of that play into this. But here's the big aha moment for me. What would it look like if it were simple? So I know mentally that I wanted to eat in that 1 hour block. But it got harder the longer I went on to not eat outside of that 1 hour block. So what would it look like if it were simple? What if I literally piled up every piece of food I could possibly imagine? Good stuff, bad stuff. And I'm eating pretty clean right now. But my suspicion is this will work no matter what. Pile up every piece of food I can imagine wanting while hungry. So there's stuff in there that I maybe shouldn't eat or maybe feel a little guilt about eating. What if I just piled it all up into a giant pile and just ate it all one time until I was full? And that's what I did. Let me share. Is this not working? Let me do this. So, all right. This will be weird for a second. Stand by. Okay, here we go. So here is, I'm going to show you a picture of this. Show and tell time. So this is the pile of food I ate last night. I spent about 15, 20 minutes getting it all together. pickles and grapes and these things called Powerball balls, which, by the way, if you're on a super strict low carb or AIP diet, they work great. An apple, chips and guac, 3 different types of meat. It's like ridiculous. Like, and I think I ate all that except 3 or 4 little pieces of steak that I'd cut up. So here is, I use a withing scale. I've been hovering around. Oh, I didn't include it doesn't have the bottom in there. Anyway, day before yesterday, I'd been in the 203 range, 203 to 204. And this is after like 2 weeks of eating net 0 carbs a day for 2 weeks in the 4-hour eating window, super clean. And my weight was basically stalled. The 2 days after, the only thing changing, not the quantity of food, not the type of food, the only thing I changed was going from eating for 4 hours to 1 hour. By piling all the food up together, weight immediately dropped from like 203 point, or maybe it's down here. Let me size this down a little bit. Maybe we can see what the exact number is. Yeah, 203.6 on the first, which was that Monday, to 201.5 yesterday, to 200.5 this morning. From literally one extremely simple change. So here's application for you, and let me get my notes back up in front of me. What would it look like if it were simple? Like, what would it look like if an area you're stuck in, that could be weight loss, that could be sales, that could be lead generation, that could be convincing your boss of doing something. What would it look like if it were simple? There's super complicated ways to do fat loss. There's super simple ways to do fat loss. Like a super complicated way that I've done in the past, and not complicated, but just like more laborious, is count your calories or do macro tracking. Like, it works, and it's like a lot of work to do and mostly annoying the entire time. What if you just ate once a day for 1 hour and piled up all the food you wanted and ate it and didn't think about tracking anything? Like, I like that better. That seems simpler. In business, what would it look like if it were simple? What would it look like if you have a sales goal over the next 60 days to generate $10,000 in sales or $100,000 in sales or whatever your business goals are? What would it look like if it were simple? Maybe you have some super complicated campaign set up with deadline timers and Facebook ads and retargeting and a partnership, and there all this stuff layered on into this giant pyramid that if you pull one piece of the Jenga set out, the whole thing collapses down. Like, what's the single most effective thing in that mix? Like, how could you rewire the system to make it almost impossible to fail? So here's a few tips to do that. And this could be applying to personal life, business, marketing, anything. Number one, here's one tip. Hire a coach to tell you what to do. Like, hire a coach that's done it before to just speak life into what you're doing and ask them like, hey, what's just the simple path to here? Not the easy one. I'm not looking for that. I mean, if it's easy too, that's awesome. But what's the simple path to this? Another tip, find something that's worked in the past and do it again. So we talked about this in depth yesterday, and I gave several examples of this, but find an email, find a campaign, find an offer that you've already run before. Or if you're just starting out, find a campaign, an email, an offer that someone in your industry or someone in a related industry has run before and model that. If it's yours, reuse it. If it's someone else's, don't copy their stuff and plagiarize it, but model it. Like, don't invent it from scratch. I was just doing this yesterday. We have a particular page on our website that I want to convert better. And actually, our page we have now is converting like too well. So much so that the quality of the lead is low. So we actually want to decrease quality and increase quantity. So I went around and just studied several different friends who have very similar businesses and how they handled that specific page, made a bunch of notes, and I'm going to outline a page to hand to our marketing team to try that out. Try a slightly lower converting, but more in-depth indoctrination page in that particular page so that the people that become leads are actually higher quality. So tip number one, hire a coach to tell you, someone that's done it before. That could be a coach. It could be a practitioner. Literally, I did this the other day. I read a book that I really liked. I wanted to learn how to do it better. And I literally messaged the offer and offered to pay them money to coach me on Voxer. And now we're going back on Voxer, and he's teaching me how to do a better job in that particular area. Second thing, find something that's worked and repeat it. Like, don't reinvent it. Find an email, a campaign that's worked for you, or find one that you're fairly confident worked for someone else and model it or reuse it. Number three, like, take a walk and take some time to think on this question. Like, get clear on what your problem is, where you're at now, and where you want to be, and the gap in between those things is your problem. And literally just think about, spend 30 minutes a day walking around in the fresh air, put your jacket on if it's cold, and think about that question. Like, all right, I got the complicated version in my head. What's the simple version? Like, what would this look like if it were simple? And literally just spend 30 minutes thinking about that outside of the context of your desk, walking around. And if you want some help from me, feel free to comment below this video, reply or comment below, And I'll give you some tips, and maybe even bring it up in Q&A section. If you're live right now, feel free to leave it and we'll brainstorm on yours specifically, because I think the thought exercise of helping other people helps unlock things for yourself as well. Fourth thing, ask your team if you have one. Ask your friends, ask your mastermind group if you don't have a team. Literally pose the problem to them. Here's the problem I have. Like, I kind of get an idea of how to solve it, and it seems kind of complicated. Like, if you were doing this and your goal is to keep it as simple and effective as possible, how would you approach this? Ask them and see what they say. Key question, how could this be simpler? Like, what would it look like if it were simple? So, example that I gave earlier was, I want to lose fat. Like, I can macro track, I can do all this stuff, but I know in my body, eating one time a day works great. I feel better. I like it. What would it look like if it were even simpler? If my key piece I'm trying to work on is how do I keep my eating window from 1 hour to 4 hours? Literally pile every piece of food up on a plate, spend an hour and eat it all. And that works. Like, I'm not hungry until I go to bed. And if I can just make it to bed without eating again, like, I know going from now till 5 p.m., that's not a problem at all. I got the habit of that. So my current problem is that eating window going from 1 hour to 4 hour. I can hack the system, make it simpler by just piling all the food up. That's an exciting thing. Like, it's actually fun to do. It's actually fun to eat all that food. I enjoy the process. And I never really enjoy the snacking process out of literally the seconds around eating the food. Everything after that is regret. Digestive system doesn't feel good. Weight loss stalls. Simplify it, pile it all up, eat it one time. How could you game that for yourself? So if you have a problem in your personal life, in your marketing, in your leadership, hire a coach to tell you what to do that's done it before. Help them tell you a simple method to do it. Number 2, find an email or campaign that's worked in the past and reuse it. Find something that's worked and reuse it. Look at yesterday's story I told on some more pro tips on that. Number 3, take a walk and just literally take some time to meditate on and think about that particular question. Identify the problem. I gotta fix this. I got a timer that pops up and blocks this because I have like a social media time limit, and it thinks this app I use is social media. So it literally pops up, you've reached your time limit for the day. I don't know if it interrupts y'all when you're watching or not. Anyway, take a walk, think about the question, ask your team. Pose the problem to them and ask them. Ask your team, your friends, your mentor, your spouse, whoever knows about your business well, and say, hey, here's my problem. What's a super simple way to solve this? And see what they tell you. Okay, that's the lesson for the day. Story and lesson for today. Quick update. Yesterday, let me pull this up. Yeah, yesterday I showed you an email, and yeah, here we go. Hold on. How does this work? Google Chrome. Yeah. Oh, that's way better. Okay, cool. Let me zoom in. So yesterday I walked through in the show. I told a lesson on showing versus telling and how that can have such a substantial impact on your leadership and in your marketing. And I gave this example of an email I wrote that basically launched a new service to our newsletter where we, instead of you trying to sell your course and coaching program yourself, an alternate idea is get other people to do it for you. And obviously the number one question you have when that idea comes up is, but I don't know who would do that for me. And we launched a brand new service that does that for you. We literally go out and find 100 people to promote your course and coaching. And then we personally guarantee that 5 of those people will promote it. And we'll coach you through, hold you accountable, help you through the whole process of this. So my question yesterday was, this is a lot of telling with some showing via a word story here, but it doesn't do a great job of showing what this new product does for you in action. So here's the idea I had. I would love to get ideas from you as well if you have a better idea of how to show this service in action versus telling. What I'm going to do, and perhaps I'll have done this by tomorrow, I'm going to make a doodle literally at the top up here. Probably put it up here that is like a stick man trying to sell stuff by himself. And then one maybe here that is like 10 stick men trying to sell stuff. So would you rather have one person, you, doing all the sales work, or would you rather have 10 of the people out there doing the sales for you? Obviously, the 10 of the people would work well if you knew how to do that. Well, turns out that we have a service that does that for you. So I think that'd be a good way just to show the basic concept of one person hard, 10 people easier. So quick update on that one. Had a little breakthrough this morning as I was reading on a way to do that would make it fairly simple. So I'll do that update, and when I have it, I'll come back and show it to you so you can check it out. This is like a news item that I wanted to share. Maybe we'll do some news updates and stuff as we go along. So yesterday, I think it was, or maybe the day before yesterday, Apple announced that they were investing somewhere around $3 billion into Kia, the car company. That's like Ritz-Carlton investing into 7-Eleven. It's just like, it seems like a super odd thing. Now, there's been rumors for a while that Apple wanted to get in the car business, and I think there's an interesting marketing play here to look for. This is not a prediction, but what might happen here. What I sense will happen is Apple will wind up acquiring controlling interest in Kia and spinning off a sub brand. Like, I think it's impossible or very hard for Apple to overcome the brand image of Kia. Now, I think Kia's done a lot over the last 10 years since the Great Recession in 2008 to improve their product. And apparently it's just a better product than it used to be. Like during the Great Recession in 2008, they literally ran buy one, get one free ads promotions where you literally bought a Kia and got a Kia for free. And now you have Apple as the primary investor, which is literally the most polar opposite brand image you could possibly have than that. Just seems odd. So my guess is what's going to happen is Apple's going to invest. If it winds up being a good thing, they're going to wind up starting another car company brand underneath Kia that gets Apple's foremost attention and tech innovation and whatnot. But they'll basically semi-acquire Kia's infrastructure, car building ability, and then start a sub-brand underneath it that winds up being the Apple Car or whatever the thing winds up being called. So be on the lookout for that. That's my suspicion of what's going to happen there from a marketing perspective. I'm curious what their play is. That's my best guess. Okay, preview for tomorrow. I learned a technique this morning while I was reading a book called the Cub Technique. And it's really cool. It's super simple. And the goal of it, or the result it gives, it'll make sure that anyone that starts to read your copy, that could be an email internally, that could be a promotion externally, or whatever the copy is, a presentation, whatever, makes sure or drastically increases the chance that anyone that starts reading your copy finishes it all the way through. And this is whether you're a good copywriter, a bad copywriter, whatever. It's a cool little exercise you can use, involves a few other people, but is really simple. I'll give you an email example of how this works and walk through a few examples of that. That's what I'm going to teach you tomorrow. So be looking out about this time tomorrow. We'll be doing a live. We'll post the recording everywhere if you want that. So thank you for being here today. Let me know, what was your number one takeaway today? Was this helpful? Do you like the stories? Do you like the lessons? Do you like the new stuff? I'm trying to get better. I get a little challenge to myself to do these every weekday for the month of February. We'll see if that happens. I feel good about it so far. It's been a good exercise in me in storytelling and teaching, which I love. But let me know, what's your favorite part of these? And what would you like to see more of and less of? See ya.